Thanks for that, Bethan. Yeah, so it's as Bethan mentioned, we're doing these fortnightly, and we've actually got Dracer joining us next week, so we are actually doing an extra one around their varying options, including document management and what have you. So I'm going to go through a few bits on Workspaces today. It's a nice short session designed obviously to be a coffee break rather than anything too long. But by all means, please ask questions. I have muted everybody for the moment just to cut out background noise. Funnily enough, like most of us, I'm expecting a parcel at the moment, and I guarantee it's going to come middle of this webinar. So the knocking on the door probably isn't going to be welcome to everybody. If you do need to ask a question, if you just raise your hand, which you can do if you hover towards the bottom of your screen, there's a raise your hand icon, and Bethan's going to keep an eye out for those and interrupt me at the relevant point. And we'll answer as many as we can. Equally, if you think about something after the webinar's finished, by all means, I think most of you have got my details, but if not, just drop us a line or send a message through inquiries email, and we're more than happy to answer it. So I'm going to share with you this morning the Workspaces in Sage 200. Now, looking at the versions you are all on, so that should be appearing on your screen. Okay, it's not. Forgive me. Sorry, apologies for that. Another slight technical issue this morning. These are the Workspaces of Sage 200. Now, you'll notice that I'm viewing these in the web browser. And the big part of that is they can be viewed in any reasonably up-to-date web browser on pretty much any device. So you can look at them on your iPad, you can pull them on your mobile phone and what have you. Now, the purpose of Workspaces is purely to view information. Now you can access them locally in Sage 200. So if I scroll down to the page here, you can see I've got an almost identical view, but it does give me a few more options within the application. But it's ideal for people like sales reps who are out on the road or project managers and what have you. And obviously in the current climate, the ability to view information whilst you're out and about is probably key to most people more than normal. I know we're all still working from home, and I think a lot of our clients are in the same position, or certainly partially working from home. So I'm going to go through a few of the more useful options for you today. Some of the more common ones. So I've analysed some support cases. So if there are any you see that you sort of see a title to you'd like to see, by all means, again, ask questions, shout up. Because of the way this is working, I can't really see anybody asking questions. So I'm relying on Bethan there just to flag them up to me as they come along. Now, you'll notice on my left-hand side, I have a whole host of options. Most of you as clients won't have those because this is my demo system. So don't panic if you look in here at a later date and find that you haven't got as many options. I've got obviously the full manufacturing suite and everything else. The other thing to remember, guys, please, is demo data. So there's one or two bits that might not be very real world, but it should give you a good overview and taste of what you'll find in your own systems. Just a note on external access, you will need your IT to set up an SSL certificate. That's something we can help them with and point in the right direction, but it is something they'll need to do. So in the same way, when you go to Amazon or the BBC, the little padlock appears, it just means your site's nice and secure because obviously the Workspaces are live Sage 200 data. They're straight into the database, so there is no sync delay or anything like that, which is really handy when you're trying to get instant decisions when perhaps the office is closed or you as a finance team don't have the capacity to deal with questions around budgets and what have you. So sort of going down the list to make life nice and easy. Within the cash book, really, really simple one just to start with. We have our cash book list. Now, people will use this at a managerial level. It means that if you're out and about, you want to see if large payments come in, you can probably get an idea from the balance. And interestingly, what you'll note about all the Workspaces is you can add varying columns to the left and right, obviously dependent on the workspace and what's relevant to that particular view at the time. Depending on what you're viewing it on, you can also export it to Excel or to Office 365, depending on the variant and version you're using. Now, obviously, you've all got access to the nominal ledger. And within the nominal ledger, there's a couple of areas that really get used, one being the audit trail list. This is really handy because you could open this up to your external auditors. They could access this information without actually having to without having to view any information, without having to come on site or in your system. You can also say we can view this internally as well. We've also got a budgets overview. So I don't know how many of you know this, but you can actually assign budgets to different Sage 200 connected users. So these don't have to be full users with all the rights and everything else that you would expect. But my budget, my username in my system is administrator, so I can view my budgets. So if you imagine within your organization, particularly if you've got remote sites, you can set different budgets up for different people, and they can see what they've got, what they've spent, what's committed, what's pending. So for example, if you put out a purchase order, although that's not been committed yet, they'll class that as pending, because in reality, you know you've got to spend the money at some point. It's not there free and easy to spend. The price book, and this is a really handy one if you've got reps out in the field. This uses Sage's 200 standard pricing, so I can look at Better Kitchens, for example, and you'll see at the bottom of the screen I can find any item. I could search for anything I wanted to in much the same way you do in 200. So anything with wall in it will appear. I can see the price of them. Again, that's live, accurate information. So particularly at the moment, where in some markets prices are changing daily or even more frequently than that, it gives you that confidence and that the pricing is correct without that phone call to the office to say, how much is this for Blogs & Co? If any of you use project accounting, we've also got a project cost by period. And again, there are all sorts of reports here. Like I say, I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'm hoping to give you a good overview of what's available. So I can instantly see on a project exactly what the costs have been broken down into which section. If you're not familiar with projects, don't worry, it might look a bit confusing, but for those of you that are used to using it, you can see I can collect into a phase and it will tell me all the costs straight away. Within the purchase ledger, if you've got purchase ledger teams, or again, at the moment, if you've got managerial teams who are not based at the office, out and about, or based from home, they can look at, for example, a supplier record, see all the details, see the invoices that are overdue, see the terms and everything else. Within purchase order processing, what I quite like is this handy document status. And the reason I like it is it's a really good, quick visual indicator of where you are with purchase orders. So for example, I can instantly look and say, right, that's on order just by the colors, and it gives me a narrative as I hover over normally that says it's not invoiced, or it's invoiced but disputed, or it's complete. It's a really, really quick and simple way of viewing that information. Credit control is obviously key to most businesses, especially at the moment. Cash flow is probably tighter than it's ever been, so a really handy one. Normally when you're doing obviously credit chasing, you're looking between transactions, you're looking for the contact details for the customer, you're looking for how much they owe, what it's made up of. All this information is really handy in this one central credit control screen. So even if you come away from this today and think, you know what, there's not a lot there that I need to look at remotely, this could be really handy for your team when they're trying to chase outstanding debts, because I can quite literally click on an account. Obviously on the right hand side here you'll see all the details, and then below the transactions that make up outstanding amounts. So I can see here it was 5,000, but the amount they've paid £2,000 of it off, which gives me the amount that's remaining. And just a couple more left for you. And again, this one's around sales, so to the purchase. We often get people use this in sort of a warehouse environment because they could have a single user logged into it and refresh it periodically, and they can look at orders by date, etc., or the priority, or a promised delivery date, and go, you know what, the promised delivery date is quite soon. Where am I in the value status pipeline? Quick view, and that one's invoiced and posted, so I don't need to worry about it. Whereas that one, for example, hasn't even been allocated yet. and you might sit there and think, okay, we need to work more closely, or I could order by priority. If anyone uses order priority for dispatching, I could organise it by that. And last but not least, another handy one for those of you that deal with stock. I can select any stock item. I can look at the item code. I can search by the item name or the group, and I can just see what I've got in stock, what's allocated, what's free, and where it is. It's also worth looking at things like summaries, which, as you can see, give you a great graphical view, of the year to date and creditor debtor totals, depending which summary you use. And as I said, it's demo data, so some of them aren't very realistic. I can look at order and return values, orders in the last 12 months, receipts, etc. So guys, that was a quick overview. I hope you found it useful. Like I say, there isn't a lot there to show you. I can go through more of them if anybody particularly wants me to. Do we have any questions? And more importantly, did that all come through all right? Because I have nothing on my screen telling me that you lot can see it. Yes, so I'm sat here talking away to myself.
No, we could see it, certainly. Great, thanks, Sentley. Does anybody have any questions for Sentley on that, or on potential other topics that they'd like to see within these coffee break webinars? You're all muted if you do, by the way.
By the way, put your hands up, please do.
Yeah, unmute yourself.
Interesting that the workspaces can be amended, so we can change them. So if you find one you've had a play around that's not quite right, by all means contact our support team, and they can discuss, if it's a minor change, they can make that for you. It depends what you want to see, really.
Fab. Okay, well, if anyone does have any questions that they can think of at a later point, or as I said, any further topics that they'd like to see covered within these coffee break webinars, would be more than welcome to kind of suggestions on things. So yeah, please either drop it in the message within this meeting, or send myself or Sentley a message directly. Yeah, so if anyone's got any suggestions of any future topics, or just any questions about today's, then please drop us a message. As Sentley mentioned, we have got one on for Dracer. So we normally have them fortnightly, but we had a little extra one, so it's kind of weekly for a couple of weeks. It will be. Do you want to mention it, Sentley?
Yeah, we had a quick question in. Thank you for your question, Terry. Yes, the stock is real time. So yeah, it's really good for reps out on the road, so they can see what's available in which warehouse. So if they're trying to sell something, they know that you've actually got it and it's available. But thank you for the question. But yeah, as Bethan said, next week we've got Dracer joining us. That's going to be a slightly longer session, probably about an hour. And a slightly later start time. I think it's 11 o'clock, but it's all on our website. And please do keep an eye on our events section. There's some really good stuff coming up. For those of you who use CRM, etc., there is also some CRM webinars in between. And like I say, we've got these every fortnight for the foreseeable future. So please do give me something to think about and to write about. But nothing too taxing.
Right. I'm just going to stop it.
Okay.